Hi, I'm Xvqilwcyieu. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I'm going to talk to you more about browser enterprise and how is Menlo Security addressing this for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the workforce, right? Agent versus humans. So I appreciate your time and let's go ahead and get started. 98% of the attacks originate from internet usage, and 80% of those targets are end user browser. That's according to Google. 75% of the employees' time is spent in a browser or in a web conference like we are right now with Zoom. And what we're seeing today is the browsers were the top data leak vector. Gen AI drove over 1,265% surge year over year in malice phishing campaigns. Unbelievable. 20% of the enterprises suffered breaches specifically traced to shadow AI. Let's talk a little bit more about Menlo as an organization. Menlo has over 10 million active end users, over 400 billion web sessions annually, a big presence in the government and Department of War, intelligence space, civilian space, and this is probably one of our largest customers. And we are enterprise wide. We've had that program, CBII, for over 5 years. You can see the other logos here like Porsche, NBC Universal, Visa, all very common names. So many organizations have invested in Menlo, and we continue to perform and keep them safe. Our big alliances are Google, AWS, as well as Cisco. And today we just announced that with Cisco, we are on their price list. So, what does the workforce look like? The fastest growing part of your workforce is agents. The expectation is the next billion users will not be human, they will be AI, which gives you huge risks. Now, you do want your workforce to still use the AI technology. You want to see, they're saying as of right now, between 20 and 30% in productivity gains. Hard cost savings from AI are expected from the boards, from the agencies, from the executives. There is a barrier though. 80% of the enterprise apps are disconnected. You have API deficiencies there, and they cannot reach the data. And the reality is the agentic workflows default to browsers. Now they can do scraping, but scraping is fraught with coding challenges. Web pages are full of junk around the actual data. So this is not very efficient. And then the risk, right? The agents have zero security instincts, no critical thinking capabilities versus a human does. So we can't just shut this off. We have to be able to address the risk. Menlo secures critical business outcomes. And how do we go about doing that? You want to capture the AI ROI without increasing your risk. So AI at work is in the browser, a data loss point that Menlo can prevent, right? Through our isolation, everything is secure. You want to be able to unlock the trapped data that I mentioned before. If you have API deficiencies with legacy systems, you don't have to go and modernize that. There is no roadmap that's required. And we're saying about 80% of that data is sitting behind those. Menlo, in our approach, we can still help you get hold of that information. And you want to be able to protect the sensitive data, right? If there is information, we can mask it. So if there's a file and you want to be able to protect some of the PII information, as an example, that's in that file, we can help you do that and still keep the DLP enforced and compliance continuously. You also want to be able to consolidate tools, right? Reduce the complexity. You want one platform, one single pane of glass, and you want to be able to replace patchwork. It's time consuming and it can just be, not cost efficient for you in your environment. So what does it take to now secure this new workforce that you have? You have humans and you have agents. Through Menlo's approach, which we've been doing this for 15 years, lots of customers, good past performance, and one plain enterprise cloud approach to this. So you want to stop the threats before they start, right? So a preventive approach to this. There's two aspects. From the human side, they target the design to exploit the human's trust. From the AI side, they're trying to attack and exploit the machine's obedience. And AI doesn't think, it just does. And there's hidden content. They're trying to poison the content and give it other instructions to bring information back to the hacker. You want to protect the data without blocking the work. So humans need to be able to collaborate freely, and agents need to process the data, and they do it through machine level, right? Like it's very, very fast. But if there's sensitive information there, you want to be able to mask it, which is something that we can do. We're not blocking the work. We're not slowing the automation. Connect and control every application. So as a human, I want to be able to have access to all of my information. I want it to be seamless no matter what location I'm at. So I could be at Starbucks, hitting the public web. I want to be able to jump into my applications like our CRM tool and be able to get my information that I need. With AI agents, they don't care about the location. They don't care about the device. They don't care about the data visibility. Their primary barrier isn't like a login screen issue, it's the API deficiency. And like I mentioned before, Menlo can help them be able to still access that information. And the fourth is kind of govern the entire workforce as one. Your workforce is human and AI. So you as a human have gone through a lot of training, you have compliance rules that you're supposed to follow, and you need to continue to do that. But with AI, and they are going to be the majority of your workforce here soon, you still need that same rigor of governance, that one set of controls, that one source of truth. And with Menlo's approach, you can still do that. So now that we've talked about how much your workforce is evolved into agents, Menlo has also doubled down on the agent, right? So we have a product called Menlo Agent Runtime Security. We have the acronym MARS, and I'm going to give you two different scenarios. So Google's autonomous agent, and you're going to have Claude Cowork. So we're going to let the autonomous agent access the information through the web channel, and we're going to get the Claude Cowork to access the information through MCP. We're going to give both of them public web access. We're going to give them SaaS application access with Salesforce as an example. And we're going to let them also access legacy applications, right? Oracle, SAP. But when these agents are doing that, you really need to also authenticate their access, right? Me as an end user, I have this very big project. I have a lot of research that's required. The agent is going to leverage my credentials to access some of that. And with our Mars technology, we can still do the correct authentication for the right level of access. But you also want to have threat prevention. For this agent, you want, and I mentioned a little bit, but you want to make sure I, as an end user, we together are looking at this slide and you see fonts, you see colors, you see the context on here, you see the written script. But an agent sees more, right? They can see any type of white on white text. They can see any prompt injections that we with the human eye don't see. And they could potentially be understanding a different command that you originally asked it to do and go and take that information and send it to a hacker. So Menlo's approach with containerizing and putting everything into isolation, we help with that threat prevention. Data security, right? You heard me talk earlier about DLP. Well, Menlo has AI adaptive DLP. It is non-disruptive because instead of blocking a file with sensitive information, we are going to mask it. We're going to still deliver the file, but we're going to make sure the agent sees what it needs to see and the workflow is not disrupted. Humans in a loop. So what do I mean by that? You will still, as the human, have control over the agent, right? So CAPTCHA is a great example. Menlo can handle this. So the agent will recognize that it needs to go back to the human to be able to do this additional two-factor authentication, and the human can intervene and watch over what the agent is doing and accessing. But with that said, with the agent, you also sometimes need, because they don't have critical thinking capabilities, you need to develop additional security policies. So Menlo does have flexibility in the Mars platform to allow you to create extra specific policies for that agent. And most of all, you want to have visibility, right? You want to be able to see everything that the agent has done. So we will definitely give you that. We have something called browsing forensics, and it'll play like a little video, right? Like something you see on YouTube. It'll show you everything that the agent has looked at and touched. And we do that also for the human, but this is hyper focused on the agent. So let's take a look at why legacy security is a blind spot to agentic risk, right? Network security, let's take a look at that. So network security, it secures the pipe, but not the work. It can't inspect the structural instructions for the web page. And let's take a look at enterprise browsers. So organizations out there like Island, they have you as a put on the end user a separate browser. So heavy agents for humans, that's not scalable. And in an agentic world, it's a headless server environment. So endpoints do not scale. Only the cloud can help you scale. I already mentioned the next billion users are going to be agents. And let's take a look at endpoint security. Protect the operating system. But agents run in the cloud, not on an endpoint. So from the beginning, Menlo has been always able to take not only care of the human workforce, but even more so now with this headless browser workforce, the agent. The headcount is growing, but it's not human, right? Menlo closes the browser security gap for humans and agents, and you need a 100% safe approach to protecting the enterprise. And Menlo's isolation approach is the best way to prevent breaches from whether it's a human or an agent. So here I have two additional resources that I wanted to leave with you. The first one here on the left, steps you can take now to kind of counter this Gen AI risk. So definitely read that. It's a great read. And then also here on the right-hand side, it's Menlo's AI agent security. It kind of goes into the details a little bit more about what I was talking about. I greatly appreciate your time today. And I hope I was able to give you a little bit more clarity on how you can handle this new workforce that you have, right? The agents are going to grow. And we have had an approach all along that will help you with your security risks. We also do allow you to experience leveraging the technology. So I highly suggest if you're interested in a pilot to please reach out. We do pilot programs for about 3 weeks. And at the end of that, we'll give you a report, kind of go through some of the things that we found. I am on LinkedIn, so you can reach me there. And I thank you very much for your time today and I appreciate it. So have a good rest of the day.